Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I want to ask you a question first things first before we dive into anything. Do you think the Moass is still coming? Why or why not? Let me know down below in the comment section. Now, my opinion is yes, it might be a little bit different than what you might think. And I want to talk about that here in this video, why I think a Moass-like event is coming, potentially when this could happen, and how you can kind of position around this event. Now, this is not financial advice. Take this for as you will. There could never be a Moass, or we could Moass coming tomorrow. You never truly will know until it does happen. So I want to get into all of that here in this video. I talked about this maybe a couple of weeks ago. It was in direct correlation to the Fed as well. And what we've seen has actually come true so far. So I do want to go ahead and jump straight into this video. Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys for tuning in. And let's just go ahead and get into it. So AMC stock is at $6.93 today, up about 1.76%. Now, couple different ways to think about a Moass-like event. I talked about this in a video, like I said, like maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, around that time frame. Two ways we get a Moass. One is we get liquidity coming back into our markets, which you're seeing right now. And you get some form of good news, some form of reason, right? Some form of catalyst. Maybe this could be the shorts that are about to get exposed via the new SEC rule that has passed in November, that is going into effect in December, that we're probably going to get aggregated data on all short positions coming out some point in January. That would be my expectation. Maybe it's February. Who knows? The government works on government time, and their clock is usually delayed a couple of months. So who knows? At some point that will happen. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe it's a spike in short interest. Maybe it's AMC stock just giving us better fundamentals, movies performing better than expectations. Who knows? We can only speculate. Maybe it's a buyout offer or it's something else. Who knows, right? Speculation can run deep there. Second thing is just liquidity heading back into our markets. Yes, I know it sounds crazy. If we get the first scenario of liquidity coming back into our markets, like we're already seeing, which we'll elaborate on what I expect from that, and good news and a catalyst, then you get a real Moass-like event. Then you get something that I think a lot of you guys have been waiting for. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50x from here. That's possible. The market cap's like $1 billion. That's certainly possible. Not too far out the realm of possibilities at that point. But that's how that happens. Now, what we're kind of seeing right now, the first start to capital heading back into our markets, that could also give you a Moass-like event. It's a little bit different than some people would expect because it's not a 10, 20, 30, 40, 50x. It's maybe a 5x, right? It could take AMC back to $30 per share. Relatively easy in my personal opinion. AMC stock minus the dilution was just trading at about $50 per share. So you could get back to some of these levels. Some people would consider that a short squeeze Moass-like event. If you're taking on trades now at $6, $7 per share, if you have some options, if you're buying stock at these prices, it's definitely going to feel like a good trade at that point. That would be my expectations though. Liquidity comes back into our markets, maybe $100 per share. Maybe you do get a 20x from here roughly, but not that exponentially, large move into the hundreds of dollars. That's not going to happen just based on liquidity coming back into our market. Basically, what I'm saying right now is I expect a large rally just as we are now, just as what we are seeing in our markets. That's why we talked about this before the Fed, because liquidity is coming back into our markets. Now, what the Fed essentially did yesterday was get into more of alignment with our markets. Not perfectly, but close enough. The Fed previously expected one rate cut towards July or August. Now the Fed is forecasting 3 rate cuts by the end of 2024. The markets are now expecting 6 rate cuts by the end of 2024. So the Fed and the markets are off again, right? There is this large kind of spread that is going on right now. But we led the Fed over the last 3 months The Fed was at 1 rate cut. We went to 4 or 5, right? And then the Fed went to 3. Now we're going to 6. Then the Fed's probably going to go to 5, right? You get the idea. The markets are leading the Fed at this point. If the Fed wants a soft landing, they got to listen to the markets. And at this point, that's what the Fed wants. The risk is way too skewed towards a recession, that inflation going back to, its peaks in 2021, 9% on your CPI report. That's very, very unlikely. So at this point, this is going to bring more money into our markets. We're seeing this today. The Russell is up 2.5% today. Yesterday, the Russell was up 3%. Congratulations if you guys are viewers of the channel that actually hit that. But I do think more money is coming back into our markets. I still think this is only the start of something that could be much larger. If you take a look at money market funds, you have about $6.2 trillion in money market funds. The entire market cap of the Russell 2000 is $2.23 trillion. So very low compared to this amount in money market funds. This is not including outright treasuries that investors own that can be sold at any time and put into better areas like stock market, or that does not include cash or cash equivalents that are in households that are investable, right? If you're totaling all of this money together, you probably have $30+ trillion that is able to come into our markets if it wanted to. Is that all going to come into our markets? Absolutely not. Is 10% of it, is 20% of it going to come into our markets? Is $3 to $6 trillion going to come into our markets in total? I would argue probably, right? The last 2 years, there's been a reason to stay away from stocks. You could get 5% for the last 6 months in treasuries. That was a big incentive to not put your money into stocks. The fears of recession in 2022, that was a big reason to not put your money into stocks. That's not the case anymore, as it looks like that soft landing is actually going to come. Now, why do I think some of this money is heading into AMC? Well, there's obviously better places to fundamentally put your money. But as you get more into this euphoric rally that I think is going to come, there's a lot of stocks, including AMC, that have been improving their fundamentals over the last 2 years. AMC is included in that. And those are the names that are by default going to get the most capital. AMC is also a well-known household name. Almost everyone out there has been to an AMC theater. If not everyone has been to a movie theater, I think that's a pretty safe assumption. Nobody goes to the movies and it's their first time to the theater anymore, right? It's over 100-year business that AMC has been running. So I think by that default, you will get some capital heading back into AMC. Now, at this point, it does not take a lot of capital to move AMC stock. Now, if we get good news, that's obviously better than not. AMC does have, to some degree, a stream of capital that heads into the stock from retail investors. That just makes AMC a little bit easier than maybe any other stock that is interest rate sensitive, potentially go higher. Now, this is not by a day by day kind of thing. I'm speaking for the next couple of months, the next 3 to 6 months, likely trend higher for AMC. At that point, you know what's going to happen? The short positions that currently have short positions in Tesla AMC are obviously going to lose a lot of money, right? Now, if you take a look here at the Ortex data, this is the big question you have to ask yourself. Is AMC stock only 8.53% sold short? I think this is the most important question you can ask yourself. If you believe these numbers, you do not want to be betting on a short squeeze with AMC. You definitely don't want to be betting the stock is going dramatically higher from here, like a 50x higher from here. That's not going to happen. The liquidity coming back into our markets, if you have positions in AMC, obviously that should do well, right? Regardless of what the short position is, at least in theory. But if you're someone like me that believes AMC short interest is hundreds of percents, then yeah, the latter makes a little bit more sense. Thinking AMC stock can go to high prices. I'm not gonna list actual prices, but hundreds of dollars, $100+ That's not too unreasonable, especially as liquidity comes back into our markets, as we do get this euphoric rally that I think is just coming either way, if you want me to be 100% honest with you guys. Now, what we have also seen recently, and I think this is very exciting, we need to point this out here in this video, is you've seen a total flip. During the court proceeding, right after the court proceeding, for the next couple of months after the court situation ended, AMC had very bearish option activity for like the last year. This has changed within the last month or so. You're now seeing very positive option activity with AMC stock. The bearish option activity is basically gone. If you take a look at the open interest for this week, on the call side, 74%. On the put side, 26%. Take a look at the volume. The volume has a put to call ratio of 0.22, meaning volume today is 81.62% to the call side, 18.38% to the put side. There is very little bears out there. And over the next 1,000 days, the put to call ratio is 0.65. This is back to more normal levels that you've seen besides this court proceeding, right? Where the put to call ratio spiked and there was a bunch of people betting against AMC during this time period. You're back down to normal levels where we actually seen big rallies before. I think that is important. Now, option activity itself, the change in sentiment, is not going to tell you when or how or why AMC stock is necessarily going to rally. I think it's one of those sleeper kind of indicators, right? Where nobody really looks at or what nobody really looks at, that ultimately is telling you the stock is probably going much higher over the next couple of months. Something else that I also think is a sleeper kind of indicator is some of the hedge fund and institutional positioning in AMC stock as of recently. Recently, you've seen the institutional ownership in AMC start to explode higher. Now, what you've seen basically over the last year and a half was institutional ownership in AMC was actually dropping, and now it's starting to rapidly increase again. Even some of the biggest short positions, or maybe not short positions, put positions we can see, because we can't see short positions yet. Some of those largest positions are matched with huge call positions, like much larger than the put positions. This is a strategy in which you're kind of hedging your bets on both sides with an upside bias. You're going to make more if the stock goes higher. We reported on this about a week ago, maybe a couple of days ago, around that range. The institutional ownership in AMC has jumped about 600% over the past quarter alone. So that is also a good sign that maybe some good things are coming next for AMC stock. Now, as far as the timeline on when this is going to happen, I don't know. It takes time for big money to move their money from, bonds, from money market funds, from, cash on the sidelines. Cash is obviously the quickest, but it does take money to move things around. If you think about just settlement time alone, if you think it usually takes about 2 days to settle a transaction, then you could be looking at 4 days, maybe more than that, just to move your money from bonds or money markets back into stocks. Now, obviously, if you're a retail investor, things happen a little quicker, right? You can move your money around faster, but I'm talking about big money here. It takes days, it takes time for big money to move their money around. So as far as this euphoric rally, liquidity coming back into our markets, it just takes time. And that's something that I know a lot of people don't want to hear. People want instant gratification. It's human nature. I get it. That's why gambling is so addictive for so many people. But this is ultimately great for AMC. And time is, you've been in your trades for a long time. Time is obviously something that will, in the end, benefit us. Now, if we take a look at the option activity for this week, you got about 6,800 calls currently in the money, 214,000 calls out the money. In the money puts at 25,000, out the money puts at 80,000. Definitely a lot of option activity, but there is elevated option activity basically everywhere for AMC, especially on the call side. One of the most notable expirations, two of them actually, I should say, January 19th 2024, you have 40,000 calls currently in the money, 131,000 calls out the money, 40,000 puts in the money, and 73,000 puts out the money. Almost a 2-to-1 ratio there, 2 times as many calls, especially on the out the money side than out the money puts. So definitely a lot of option activity there. The next most notable expiration as of right now, and obviously more expirations will open up, but these are probably going to be the large ones over the next 2 years until 2026. The next large notable one so far is the March 15th, 2024, 5,600 calls currently in the money, 73,000 calls out the money, 15,000 puts in the money, and 52,000 puts that are out of the money. So these next 2 expirations, watch around these time periods, expect more volatility into our markets. I think that's just the simple fact of the matter, and that's what we maybe can expect. Now, in the very near term, coming tomorrow, we will get a little bit more data that will be coming out. So tonight at 9 p.m., you're going to get house price index, year over year, industrial production, retail sales, fixed asset investment, and the unemployment rate coming out for China. China is the second largest economy in the world. The US and China tend to have a pretty codependent relationship. So if they have bad data, that's obviously not going to be good for us as well. Now, coming out tomorrow, you're going to get some PMI data. So manufacturing production year over year, month over month, industrial production year over year, capacity utilization, New York Empire State Manufacturing Index. And then you are going to get at 9:45 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, S&P Global Composite PMI Flash, S&P Global Manufacturing PMI Flash, and S&P Global Services PMI Flash that will all be coming out tomorrow morning. This is a little bit on the softer side as far as data goes, but it will be important. And if we get some good numbers here, can help, lead to a rise in AMC. Overall, not a bad day today. Yesterday, you hit a new multi-year low at $6.50 per share. I think this is just the start of a potential rally in AMC stock. But again, it's going to take some time. AMC is not the first place people allocate their money to. That's why you see a Tesla outperforming today. That's why you see more of your higher quality stocks outperforming today. Not that AMC is necessarily lower quality than some of those other names. AMC has been doing very well over the past 2 years, but AMC is diluting shareholders, and that's a big problem. If we can put that to the side, if we can get Adam Aron make some kind of commitment for 2024, at least for a certain time period, not to dilute shareholders, then AMC stock will be able to rise a lot more. I don't know if that's going to happen. That did happen in 2022. I don't know if that's going to happen, again for 2024. If that does happen, AMC stock is going much higher. I think it's time that does happen, and probably will happen at some point, especially if AMC stock cannot get going here as more capital does go into our markets. Overall, RSI at 42.11. Definitely on the oversold side, and your MACD is still positive. At least the yellow line is above the blue line, but not by much. So let me know what you guys think about all of this information down below in the comment section. Hit that like button as well as subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.